Hello everyone, I'm George Nowack and welcome back to the Creative Corner, a chance for us to put a spotlight on iconic creatives that push content to the next level behind the scenes. Today's guest is the man responsible for what you are seeing here.
We're gonna do what we always do, the same way we've always done it, right? Like, I could literally be sitting here and all of a sudden I'd be like, hey, welcome to OpTic. And just like that, like, he's back.
He's always rocking.
More than anything, like, my full concentration has to be on OpTic and making sure that OpTic becomes what I want it to become. I have a list of like 17 things that I want to do right fucking now, but I cannot because of, I don't know, little obstacles, man. But we'll get it together.
And joining me today for the second interview of the show is Robert Rogers, executive producer for OpTic Gaming. Rogers, how are you doing today?
I'm amazing, man. Yesterday we just put out a behemoth of a documentary that was like 50 minutes called The Process. So I'm well rested. I slept for like 12 hours last night recovering. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So you're the man behind a lot of content from OpTic Gaming. What has been your standout piece of content that you've been involved with in your career so far?
Probably the last process that I made. In my opinion, it's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. It's around Nick Maniac. A lot of people know him. It's a 32-minute documentary on his mental health and his recovery of drug addiction, and kind of how esports has influenced that and just his journey over the last 5 years. That one hit home personally for me with mental health, and it was just something, a story I really wanted to tell, as well as Nick was very open about it, and it was something that was comfortable to him, which was extremely important, because when you touch subjects like that, you have to do it very tastefully and respectfully. And it was just kind of a whirlwind of a piece that just kind of fell on my lap, and it was amazing to be a part of. And I had a lot of fun putting it together. I loved the finished product, and the community reception of it was also just absolutely amazing. So I'd probably say that's my standout piece, at least so far. Hopefully I have a long career of big standout pieces, but we'll see.
I also wanted to ask, so how did your journey begin? What were some of your first steps in the industry, as well as anything that inspired you to dive a little bit more into the world of esports?
It was kind of, so I competed for a long time. That was like my thing. My family weren't behind it at all. It was kind of a battle that I had to do kind of on the side of work, on the side of going to school. And it just wasn't paying out. I wasn't good enough, basically, what it was. But I was like, well, I still love gaming. Like, that's definitely where I want to end up. What can I do? And around this time, there was a show produced by Max Olivio, who works at TSM, called TSM Legends. Everybody who has heard or watched any sort of esports content knows of this show and knows of Max. And I saw that and was like, wow, this is amazing. But I didn't really make the connection of, oh, you could do this, until probably Hitch came around, and I saw that he was just this average dude that picked up a camera and was starting to make his run. And I was like, oh, I can do that, but I can do that better probably. And he'll hate that I say that, but I was like, I saw that and I was like, this is like, he just picked up a camera. He didn't go to film school. He didn't do anything. And now, like, I could do that. I could totally do that. And then I literally just at one point went out, after kind of not knowing what I wanted to do. I was in college at the time, went out, literally maxed out a credit card, which, by the way, do not do, buying a camera, and just started picking it up and tried making a name for myself. And eventually, you know, it kind of turned into something. So those were kind of the beginning days. It was very rough. All my videos were bad. But you gotta start somewhere. You gotta start learning the basics, the fundamentals, and yeah, eventually I just made the right connections, which ended up actually being Hitch at one point down the road, and the rest is history.
So obviously, esports being one of the fastest moving and trend-setting industries in the entire world, I wanted to ask, how do you stay ahead of the curve, and where do you draw your influence from, if any?
It's hard, man. Trying to. It's, you know, there's the famous quote. It's easier to follow than it is to lead, and that's like the easiest way to sum it up in being some sort of creative in this scene, because at this, like, everyone hears the esports saying, oh, we're building the plane while we're flying, and it is literally that. Like, we're a lot of us in the esports scene, we didn't go to film school, we didn't get that traditional training, so this is us building our fundamentals. And I've never really taken class. I've just had to pull from people next to me. I've never had mentors, so it's this question's kind of, or my answer's kind of all over the place, but it's kind of just like watching a lot of content and just trying to digest it and seeing like where my style or the stuff that I see that works, and trying to make it flow in the stuff that I make. Like, I'd say like the big inspirations to kind of actually answer your question. The like 6 months leading up to when I was working on the process, I probably had Drive to Survive, the F1 docuseries, and The Last Dance on repeat for literally 6 months straight. And I just sat there and analyzed everything. Okay, well, they're only on interview shots for X amount of time. Okay, their B-roll is this fast. Their music influenced the scene, but in this way. And kind of built off of those properties, and then started trying to build what I wanted my content to look like. And I'd say like the biggest thing that I took from those shows was pace. I think that's the most important thing in esports right now, and just in YouTube in general. Like, it's all about getting that hook right off the bat and getting someone to like want to stay and watch your content. So I know that answer was all over the place, but I'd say inspiration comes from literally everywhere. But for me, I'd say The Last Dance and Drive to Survive.
Now, of course, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about The Process, an incredibly heartfelt content series that got a lot of attention in the industry. So if you could talk us through what the series is and what exactly went into making it.
The Process is a beast, man, especially because, I mean, I'm the one that takes a lot of the heavy lifting on it. Luckily, I do have some helping hands in Matt Craig and Josefa Robledo, the two other parts of the OpTic production team, and they just hold it down. Like, when I have to go into process mode, they're like, hey, we got everything else. So it's so nice having them on board. But Process is a beast, man, because it's when I worked at 100 Thieves before this. When I came back, there was the discussion of, well, do we continue Vision? Because we knew we were getting OpTic back. This was before everything had kind of gone down. They're like, well, we want to bring Vision back. And Hitch was kind of like, no, this is staying in the past. This is this. And Hex was kind of like on the fence about it. He was like, well, we should do it. And it was kind of on like me to be like, yes or no. And I was like, you know what? Let's move on. Like, so much has gone on over the last couple of months. Let's just move on, start fresh. And not only that, but I felt like when I did Vision, I was trying to adapt into what the fans wanted and what Hitch had already paved, which was amazing. Like, he had built this this show that every Thursday or whenever it came out, depending on if he was late or not, everybody in the industry would tune in to watch this show, which was great. But it was, again, me forcing myself into that style. And I was like, you know what? Let's do everything fresh right at the gate. And I want to dictate what this show is and what it looks like. This is not Vision. And people that try to fit it into that Vision bubble, it's just not what it is. It's something completely different. Me and Hitch's styles are too different. So when it came into developing the show, it was like, well, what do we kind of want to do with it? And I wanted it to be way more fast-paced. I wanted it to be way more concise and tell a story. And I wanted it to look great. Like, I really wanted to give it like an artistic look to it. And Hex is like, you can do whatever you want as long as you're telling the OpTic story. And I was like, great. As long as I'm being true to the fans and not just like basically feeding them bullshit and I'm like doing it right. He was like, you can do whatever you want. And that's kind of the pace we've been on up to this point. But it's been a lot of, I didn't realize it was going to be as much of a workload as it has been. Because again, like, it's like The Process, it's a lot, but we also have all of our other content that we have on a daily basis. And we are a pretty small team. Like, it's just me and two other dudes that work on all the content on the OpTic side. So it can be a lot, but it's so rewarding. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
So I'm actually interested in learning more about your relationship with Hex. So what's it like working with him, especially when it comes to content?
It's amazing. I mean, Hex is a busy dude, so sometimes you just don't have the time to do everything that you want. But I mean, it's that battle of it's good enough, it's not perfect. But as long as our fans tune in every week and love the content, and we're again not just shoveling them shit, it's great. And we're working with Hex. I mean, he's an industry leader. He's probably one of the biggest, or he is the biggest CEO in the scene, arguably, and also an Esports Award winner. You know, multi. Yeah. So. Yeah, but it's amazing. Again, like this has been preached for a decade now. OpTic is a family, and being a part of that, you have like free reign to give input. He includes us in a lot of the conversations behind the scenes and really make sure that everyone feels like they're involved. And Hex is just a good dude.
And finally, now, Roger, it has been awesome catching up with you, but we have some great announcements to make, and it is my pleasure to tell you that the process is a finalist for Esports Content Series of the Year. OpTic Gaming are a finalist for Esports Video Production Team of the Year, and you yourself are a finalist for Esports Creative of the Year.
Wow, that means so much to me. Thank you so much. That's wow. I don't even know what to say. That's just amazing. I'm excited to see who else is on that list because there's so many talented people in this industry and it's so competitive. Oh my God, it's gonna be a battle this year.
Congratulations once again. It is incredibly well deserved. People watching, if you've not seen the process, please do check it out. It will surprise you in ways that you did not expect. Robert, it has been a pleasure, and thank you everyone for tuning into this edition of the Creative Corner.